And I can't really put it into words because for all the things I can say about it as a video game, it's an experience, right? And that's the thing about horror. And you were describing it in Alien Isolation. Horror is an experience. When horror gets itself right, it's supposed to have you feel this catharsis for overcoming something that seemed impossible to overcome, that evoked true fear, yet you overcome it. That's the uniqueness of the video game horror, is that I faced this, I overcame this, and I succeeded and won, even despite my fear. It evokes that catharsis of courage, is what I'll call it. This is the game that did that for me. And it did it in such a powerful way that I was like, I don't think I'll ever play a game in the horror genre that peaks quite like this. You have me interested in Alien Isolation, I may have to check it out, but my gosh, this was the first time I'd played a survival horror game and said, this is what horror is all about. It made me a horror fan. It makes me defend the horror genre as a whole from people who are turned off by it. I'm like, you just haven't had that horror experience. That thing that makes you say horror can be art. This is the game that made me say horror can be art. And that's why Resident Evil 2 Remake. Yeah, that's why Resident Evil 2 Remake is my second favorite game of all time.
For me, horror is probably one of the more... I wouldn't say it's... No, I actually do want to say it is actually difficult to pull off.
Incredibly.
Because the biggest aspect of horror for me is... I like what you said there, the catharsis of tension? Or
courage.
No, courage. Like forcing you to be courageous and do the things you wouldn't ordinarily do. And that's hard to replicate in a video game because there are no real stakes in it, right? Like you're playing a game. So how do you implement that in the design of what you're playing? This is something that Lethal Company does very well. You got to meet that quota. All of your buddies are dead, but I got to go back inside and it's like almost midnight. But I still have to get resources because we're on our last day. So I'm going to go in and be scared out the wazoo to do what I need to do. That's hard to do.
Incredibly. And Resident Evil 2 Remake does a wonderful job of, despite the fact that it's a narrative, using its atmosphere. That's the word I'll use. It has an atmosphere. It's between its sound design and its graphics and just its lighting especially. Creates an atmosphere of constant fear. So even if there's no zombies in a room, even if you don't really, there's nothing between you and the objective, there's this constant sense of, I don't know what's around the corner. Every step is a step of that courage. And therefore, everything you do in the game, every time I got back after 30 minutes of being in that haunted house and I get back to the save point and I've accomplished something, there's that catharsis. I'm like, I did it. I made it 30 minutes in that stupid haunted house or that police station.
Is it a save-based system as well?
Save points.
Like you have to save points. Okay, yeah. That is a great way to make horror games.
Yep, I gotta get back to the save point. Gotta get back.
Yeah, nobody wants to go back.
No.
Nobody wants to go back.
But yeah, that's why Resident Evil 2 Remake is my second favorite game of all time. And Resident Evil 7 is up there as well as one of my favorite games, but I didn't want to spam this with horror. So that's why.